and welcome to today's vlog. It's the 18th of October and I just thought I would do a driving vlog. I got this little thing on my dash from Kmart. Yesterday I was there getting some stationery for Instagram photos actually, and I saw this $4 little car mount and I love watching people just chat in their cars. I don't know what it is, but ever since I started I've really wanted to film in my car and I hope the quality is going to be okay. I don't actually know what it will be like and if it'll be too shaky or if you'll be able to hear me. I also have really loud windscreen wipers. Oh, just got a memo. Really loud windscreen wipers, so I really hope it doesn't rain. But anyway, I have had a really lovely day actually. I have been at home all day. I woke up this morning at 5:30 and went to the gym, did my workout and all of that, and then what did I do? Came home, I meditated after having breakfast, and what did I do? Oh, I did self-coaching scholars, and I was doing the daily work, the daily sort of thought work, and then, wow, this is really bouncing. I don't know if it's going to be oh my god. Is this going to be bouncing too much? I might have to only actually talk. Maybe I'll have to edit this. I don't know how bad the bouncing is. I hope it's not too bad. So, yeah, I did self-coaching scholars, I did the daily work, and then I did the money stuff as well, and I'm just absolutely loving it. Whoop. And it's a little bit hard to actually do this while driving. Steve was like, you shouldn't film while you're driving, it'll be too distracting, but I'm just going to try and talk as if I just had someone here, and to not look at myself as well. So I was doing self-coaching scholars. I'd spent about an hour doing the money stuff and then just the normal sorts of thought work that I was saying before. And then I started working on Get Out of Your Own Way, which is my 7-day challenge, which used to be an email challenge, and I have made it. Wow, this is so bumpy. I have made it into an online course, and I was just updating the sales page for that has all the information about it and everything. And because that course is about perfectionism, I was like, well, I'm just gonna look up and see what perfectionism, like what's out there about perfectionism, which is I have done before obviously, but I was just like, I don't know, just in the mood to look at things. So I had a look at that and came across Brené Brown, which obviously if you look up perfectionism, she is one of the first people that come up. She has her book The Gifts of Imperfection, which I haven't read. I have read Daring Greatly, and she has some other books too, but she is a shame and vulnerability researcher. And it's so funny because so I just ended up having this really big self-development day today, and I was doing work as well, but the kind of work I was doing, like adding little banners to blog posts and stuff, I could do that while I was listening to something. Like I didn't need to be fully, I don't know, I could listen to something and concentrate on that as well. So I listened to literally most videos that come up on YouTube when you type in Brené Brown perfectionism, and I just had some huge realizations that I have not had about perfectionism before. And it's so funny because nothing she said was anything that I hadn't heard before. I've actually heard Brené speak a lot. I've heard a lot of her talks. I've listened to her on a lot of podcast episodes. I have heard her message a lot of times, but I always feel like, you don't hear something until you're ready to hear it, or you have to be in a certain place to hear it. And I think that's why with books and podcast episodes and anything like that, for someone it'll just click, and for someone else they're like, that wasn't that inspiring, or it depends where you are, the message that you get from it. So I was listening to all of this stuff, and I started with the video where she's talking about perfectionism being the 20-ton shield. And so I often talk about that perfectionism is fear, and we're scared of judgment, rejection, and any fear of failure is really fear of judgment and rejection and that kind of thing. But she was talking about how perfectionism is really driven by shame. And that's something I had heard before, but I hadn't really pieced it together. And if you've been watching these, you might know that I've had a few revelations lately around shame. The first was when I was talking about money, which is what I started looking into when I was doing Brooke's course. I don't know if this shaking's going to be too much. Oh my god, I don't know how to stop it. When I was doing Self-Coaching Scholars, I wanted to do her money mindset stuff. So I started doing that, and then I took the work that I did to Kit, my coach, and he was saying that the way I was talking about the situation, which was that I overspent on my holiday a couple of years ago, that I was attaching shame to that, and that he related it to a rape victim, or and I didn't get it when he had said it like that until I was really thinking about it, that often I haven't been sexually abused, and I'm not going to pretend to know what people in that situation feel like, but what is said is often that they have this feeling that there's something wrong with them, and that they're lesser because of that, and they make it mean something about themselves, some people. So just want to qualify that I'm not going to pretend to know, but I had made that situation something that I was ashamed of. I felt shame around it, and Renee was talking about how with shame, if you don't speak about it, that situation, that's what kind of keeps it alive. And I hadn't told anyone. I didn't really even tell Steve. I was very ashamed, and I hadn't even noticed or realized that I was ashamed until he had sort of pointed that out. And I was like, oh yeah. And then he was saying, you don't have to change the situation or change anything. You just need to change the way that you're relating to that experience and what you're making it mean, because I was making it mean that there was something wrong with me, when it was just something that I did and isn't a reflection on me as a person or anything like that, and I had just made it mean that it was. And so that was a huge breakthrough. And then after having that, I was like, oh, that's exactly what I did when I was with my mum and losing my mum to cancer. I had made that mean I was ashamed of that, even though it makes no sense to say that. I love my mum so much, and I don't know how to explain it, that I would be ashamed of her dying. I think, and I was 11, and it's hard to know how you process things, especially when you're a lot younger. But even when I was growing up and she was sick, I had made that mean something about me and something negative about me, and that kind of pattern of thinking that any kind of rejection or abandonment or anything like that is a reflection, is meaning I'm not good enough. That's what I was making it mean. not sure if this shaking is going to be too much. Maybe how can I figure out how to stop that? Anyway, so I had that breakthrough as well, that like the way that I normally can't even, until the last couple of months, the last month, like I would normally be crying because the shame, like I don't even know how to describe it. I wasn't even conscious of it, but every time I thought about her dying, it like hit a button for me that somehow I wasn't good enough. Like, it's been 15 years since she passed away, and I'm only just starting to really make sense of how I've related to it and how that kind of pattern has driven everything. So anyway, I've started to have those breakthroughs, and I feel like perfectionism has been like this onion in a sense, where when I first started my blog, I didn't even realize I was one. I didn't know much about perfectionism. It wasn't until, like, I can't even remember when I was like, perfectionism is what I'm struggling with, and that mindset. But there was no, like, I wish I could remember what it was that really even hit that. But I first had the moment of like, oh, I'm a perfectionist. That's like the first layer of the onion, the very first one. Then after that, it was like trying to figure out what perfectionism was. And then I thought perfectionism's fear, like all kinds of fear. And then like fear of lots of different things. And then I sort of realized that perfectionism is fear of abandonment and rejection. And that all those fears, like fear of failure, it's not failure itself, it's that we think if we'll fail, then we'll be rejected and judged and all of that. And we already believe we're not good enough, so we always avoid opportunities to fail because we don't want any more evidence. So in the last couple of months, I've started to be like, oh, well, actually, perfectionism, I think, is really just fear of rejection and being alone and abandonment. Like being excluded from the tribe, and this whole not good enough thing. And I was listening to Oprah and Brené Brown, like two of my favorite people, just having a chat. It was so good. And actually they've done so many interviews together, so I want to go and watch all the different ones, just because, you know, you need to hear something a few times to really get it. And I think hearing them talk about similar topics in different ways will be helpful, but I also just think they're both incredible women. But anyway, she was talking about how perfectionism is really this protection mechanism, and there are a few different ways we protect ourselves from shame, but perfectionism is one of them. And it's this idea that if we live a perfect life, we do everything perfectly, we get perfect results, then no one can judge us, no one can hurt us, and we'll never have to feel shame. So we're always trying to protect ourselves. And Oprah said she's not a perfectionist. She says in one of them that someone in her staff had accused her of being a perfectionist because she'd been particular about what she wanted, and she said, no, I'm not a perfectionist. I strive for excellence, but it's not from this perfectionist, I'm not good enough space. And there's a difference, and this isn't about, you know, lowering your standards so you don't achieve anything. It's about achieving from a healthy place. So yeah, they were just having this chat about how it's really shame, and I was like, it's all starting to make a lot of sense. And it's one of those things, I think, that just even shedding the light on it really it almost dissipates that whole thing just from that alone. Like, there's thought work to be done around it, but I think that, you know, this whole shame thing happens so unconsciously or subconsciously, whatever. And Brené was saying that she's done so much, like years and decades, I think now, of research on shame and vulnerability and empathy, everyone has it. Everyone knows that feeling of feeling ashamed, and so the answer isn't to stop ever feeling ashamed. She just says that there are people with shame resilience, and that those people recognize shame. So if there's a situation, something happens, say for example, this is an example she used, but just what I'm thinking of now. Say for example, if you post something on Instagram and it's been up for an hour and nobody's liked it, and normally people would like it or whatever, and then you have that feeling of like, you know, that like this situation happened, like the feeling of shame can happen in a lot of different situations. But if it's like, oh my god, you know, no one likes this, like I need to take it down or whatever, that people with shame resilience, they have that feeling too, but they go, okay, this is shame I'm feeling, and actually process it as shame. The ones that have the most shame resilience actually talk about it in a really open and vulnerable way. Often, she said, when you're sharing something that you're ashamed of, it's really powerful to do it just one-on-one. And she was saying, like, there's a difference between posting on Facebook, oh my god, I lost my job, to being to someone like, hey, do you have 10 minutes? I got laid off today and it's really, I'm feeling a lot of shame about it. That ask for a one-on-one conversation is a lot more vulnerable than posting about it on Facebook. And yeah, it was just so interesting. I'm just fascinated by it. I think I just realized today, like, Brene Brown is sort of like doing the work that I want to do, or that I have been doing, and that I'm interested in, because I'm just trying to figure out what's going on in here. And I feel like I'm a lot closer to that. And I was thinking as well, like, I don't know if I've just been feeling a lot more self-confident and all of that in the last couple of months, because I have been sharing things and talking about things that I'm ashamed of. And that, yeah, she's just talking about how the way to get to really process shame and to eliminate it from running your life is to, oh, it's gone rain, is to talk about it and to be open and vulnerable about it. And there's so many different amazing things that she says, and she talks about how she still struggles with it, and you know, it's part of the human condition. But just even seeing that shame is such a strong, like, ruler in my life, it just helps get rid of it. But still a lot of work to do. And one of the things she was talking about as well is shaming others, and it really has made me want to focus on, oh, it's raining, not shaming other people, because it's something that, like, we can often do, and I can do as well, and I do it, judging other people to make myself feel better. And that when you shame other people as well, like, no one ever and even if it's behind their back, like, it just also, I think, increases the shame that we experience about ourselves. And I just want to really start paying attention to that. And she was talking as well about, if you're trying to change someone's behavior by shaming them, and I totally agree with this, and I've always, like, I've had this thought about shaming people, but I hadn't worded it that way. I had thought of it in terms of attacking someone. When you tell someone they're wrong, and you know, they should do what you're doing, and there's something wrong with them, they need to be more like you, no one responds well to that. Like, and if you're made to feel ashamed of, like, you don't, like, it's when people act out, it's when people attack and all of that kind of thing. So she's just talking about being really careful around shaming other people, And it's such a reflex for some of us to, like, you know, look at someone on the street and laugh at them, or look at someone's hilarious Tinder photo and to laugh at it and be like, oh, what a loser. And I've done all that stuff, and I've done it quite a lot, but I think I just really want to work on really just being aware of those thought patterns and stopping myself from shaming other people. And I think it will lead to me being more kind to myself. And yeah, it was just so interesting. I'm obsessed, and probably because I've had, like, I feel like my obsession with personal development has come from this place of shame and this place of there's something wrong with me, I need to fix it, and all these books have the answer. But yeah, it just was so interesting that a lot of us just have shame ruling our lives, and these things that, you know, like I was saying with my mum, like, it doesn't make intellectual sense that I'm ashamed that I had attached shame to her dying from breast cancer. Like, that doesn't make sense. But sometimes we just think of things a certain way, and then we continue to relate to them that way, and then we don't even realize it, and then it's just happening unconsciously. And because shame, like with social media as well, everyone's just showing the highlights, and it can really be scary to be open and honest. But I think part of the reason as well is that I try to be really open and honest about things, and I'm sure I still have work to do, but it's because I know that that's what creates real connection, and that's what, when I follow people and connect to them, it's when they've been really vulnerable and open, and that's what I like much more than seeing pretty photos and hearing about someone's perfect life. Like, that's like lifestyle porn in a sense, that it's like, oh, imagine that. But I really feel the most strongly about the men and women out there that are actually sharing the shit that goes on, and I would like to be one of them. So yeah, so anyway, I am probably going to stop talking because it's raining and my windscreen wiper is going to be so loud. I hope this has been okay quality, because this shaking might be too much, but then I don't know what it'll actually look like. But, you know, this is really what I'm just trying to figure out, and I might try and figure out how to have it less bouncy. But yeah, I thought, you know, this is the real 365 days of personal growth, and one of those things I'm learning is how to film while driving. So, oh, see, can you hear that? Anyway, I will see you tomorrow. I hope this has made sense. It was just so fascinating to really just, like, please Google or YouTube search Brené Brown perfectionism, because so many of the things she said, I was just like, oh damn, that makes so much sense. I've heard you say it before, but I've never like had that moment where I've been like, oh, that's it. So personal development does I feel like it is kind of like that onion, like you slowly work through it and see what's really happening in your mind, and you have to be in a certain place to be able to peel back the next layer and peel back the next layer. And yeah, I'm just learning a lot about growing without invalidating past experiences or actions or goals, and just having more compassion for myself and for other people, to know that everyone's doing their best. And that's just what I'm thinking about today. It was a really enjoyable day, and yeah, now I'm just gonna go to work, so I will see you tomorrow. Bye.